All right, lads. Today we're going to be talking about Uta and why I think she's one of the probably she's going to cause a few problems in the story for a very particular reason. Now I know Oda said she is canon and all this, and the fact that the backstory that we see in like the tie-in episodes and the movies are all canon. Now, real quick, there's no spoilers for the movie in this because I haven't seen it. The only spoilers that will be here are spoilers for the tie-in episodes. So episode 1029 and 1030, I believe. Because I didn't think 1031 was important for me to make this video because that's more of a direct tie-in to the events of the movie. Whereas the first two are more backstory of the two, of Luffy and Uta. Which I think really made me rethink my thoughts on Uta. I was really hyped for the fact that Uta was, Shanks' daughter. That's really cool. She's canon. But I knew she wasn't probably going to show up in the main story. We even have tie-in manga cover stories with her writing her songs and what we can assume is Elegia. I'm not really sure how they pronounce it. Also, I do kind of like how these more recent episodes are making Shanks kind of look like more like a pirate than he usually comes across. You know what I mean? But my biggest problem with this particular tie-in episodes and making Uta canon is that it's tying a lot of what made Luffy onto Uta, right? Like, we're going, okay, he's never, like, we were tied in here. They go, okay, Luffy never thought of a dream before. Who makes him think about dreams? It's Uta, right? Who makes him, reassured in his idea to adventure and become a pirate? Oh, it's Uta all of a sudden. Why did he want a musician on his crew? It's because he promised to make a new Genesis with Uta and shit like that, right? And okay, in a vacuum, you might think this isn't that important, right? But the thing is, the reason Shanks gave him the hat was because he spoke his dream to Shanks. And now we've got the thing where Uta now basically is the reason he started thinking about dreams in the first place. And so this very important character is a movie exclusive character that, okay, I don't mind if she was retconned into the story, that doesn't bother me. But like, now she has to show up in the story. She has an extra level of importance to this fella's dream, right? To Luffy's dream, right? Uta is now one of the most important characters in the entire series that set this fucking series in motion. So the fact that if we don't see Uta at all in the manga, right, I think that is going to be a detriment to the overall story. Because now they've put it in place where Luffy didn't even have a thought about dreams until he met Uta. And you could even argue his whole thought about, his whole thought about the initial dream, which we assume is like making sure all his friends can't go hungry or whatever, what he said to Kaido, I don't remember this word for word, was started because Uta, Shanks couldn't protect Uta. And now he wants to do, now that's a reach. So we're not going to stick with that. But my point still being is the initial thought of, oh, I can have a dream, or like I can wish for something that's more concrete than just, oh yeah, I want to adventure as a pirate, right? That was established for Luffy by Uta. So now she is one of the most important characters in the series. So she has to show up. Now, in which capacity she can show up, it could literally just be, she's one. Do we assume like the events of this are canon? So LG is an actual island, but the events of the movie are not canon. So I don't know what we're gonna do there, to be honest with you. I mean, technically, if we go off exactly what happened here, you could theoretically argue that these events are canon now because Yamato didn't join the crew. Right, so we're still with the Straw Hats you see in the movie entirely, and the way they set it up is they're sailing away, and they don't mention Wano, they don't mention anywhere. So you could just argue the events of the movie did happen in that regard. I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know if they state anything, and I do know one spoiler, which I'm not going to say, which makes me believe that this is. You could argue that this could tie into the story much more than any other movies. Still though, I do feel like now Uta has to show up at some point. Like, because her importance is now to a degree which I don't believe a movie only character that never shows up in the manga itself should be. Now, obviously, you could say, well, she's in the cover stories. We see her writing her songs and shit. But no, she has to meet Luffy in the manga now because she's so important to how he established his original dream. He only started thinking about what a dream was and how he could have a dream that he strives for after she spoke about them. So like her importance is a lot more now. That's my big problem, because if we don't see her at all, then what's the point? Like, you just kind of you've made a really important character that is only going to show up in movies and the anime, right? So now this is really important to her, to Luffy as a character, and the initial backstory is now incomplete in a way. You know what I mean? You have to go swap medias to go see the complete story for Luffy's the origin of Luffy's dream, which is one of the most important plot lines in the entire series. More important than the whole dream to be Pirate King is his original dream that we'd never hear about. You know what I mean? And I know the dream is like reestablished later, like it's something he says due to the whole, the idea of Higuma and the stuff he sees in the Goa Kingdom. It's all established later on, like why he has what his dream is established later on, like that because of all the poverty in the Goa Kingdom and because of everything that happened with Higuma, like that whole stuff. You know what I mean? But the whole idea to have a dream was set up by Uta, and I feel like it's a bit. I don't know. It's a bit underwhelming, to be honest. In my personal opinion, I don't know. Like the idea of Uta is great, right? Shanks' daughter. That's a cool idea. Her relationship with Luffy, I enjoy it. It's a very fun dynamic, because Luffy, it's an older sister dynamic for Luffy, which kind of works. It's kind of like it's similar. I wouldn't know. It's not similar, but it's somewhat similar to his dynamic with Nami, where they're still kind of they joke around and they piss each other off a little bit, but Nami seems a lot more mature than Uta in that dynamic. So it's a lot more of a friendly sort of relationship, or a lot more of a kind of similar age sort of relationship than Luffy and Nami. But it's just, I don't know. After the most recent episodes, I feel sort of weird about it, because a lot of Luffy's core beliefs are put in place by Uta. His fear for protecting his friends initially is put in place because he couldn't protect Uta. Like, I don't know, man. It's really weird. I don't know how I feel about it. Now, if she shows up in the story, all this is entirely void, and this is just some random ginger kid screaming about how, oh no, anime filler episodes annoy me because this ruins the continuity. You know what I mean? I get how this seems, but it's just interesting to me because I feel like now she needs to show up in the story at some point. Whether the events, okay, this is the only spoiler I'm going to talk about because I'm sure many of you have listened to the soundtrack on Spotify. The final song on the soundtrack is Bink Sake. Right, it's Uta singing Bink Sake on the soundtrack. So in my opinion, at the end of the movie, she goes back to traveling with Shanks. Now that is just based on the fact that you can hear her singing Bink Sake, and the only other way that would happen is if they partied on Elegia, which I doubt, right? They could party at the end of the movie or something. This is all speculation, by the way, but I'm assuming it's pretty solid because she's singing Bink Sake. She's either going to be in the Straw Hat crew or the Red Hair crew, and they're not going to have a uncanon member of the Straw Hats. So it's going to be the Red Hair crew. So she obviously gets back with the Red Hair crew, and then they sing Bink Sake at the end of the movie. And maybe they sail off together with the Straw Hats, like the Straw Hats are sailing off together with, like, alongside them, and they party between ships or some shit. I don't know, but realistically, that's probably going to be how it's set up. And you can look, I'm sure Luffy's important to the story. You could argue that maybe the events of this movie happen without Luffy or something. Like Shanks shows up and the events of this movie happen without Luffy. And we see later on when, Luffy meets Shanks, Uta's there. And then all the events are like explained in a flashback that we don't actually see, but you just know because you've seen the movie. Right? That could totally happen, and that's how you make her a canon character. Because Bullet in the Stampede movie was well, people kind of assumed he was a canon character, right? Or was he always known to be filler? Because people assume Zephyr is a canon character just like Shiki. But Bullet was like completely unconfirmed after the Odin flashback because we know he was there for the what you call it, that era, because they had he's the person that Laugh Tale was revealed to in the whole too early idea. So it's an interesting thought experiment. Because is Uda going to be added into the story? I feel like because of this very small detail that no one else gives a shit about, I feel like it needs to be, right? Whereas Bullet was like unnecessary. You know, he was kind of added in there, but you could easily take him out. There was nothing that tied him down besides, oh, he was the person Roger was talking to when he bent a knee down to Roger. Like, nah, you don't need that. He didn't need to show up. I will say having Bullet on the crew would have been nice because we literally only have what 4 known like proper members of the red hair pirates that aren't apprentices. So you got Odin, you've got Roger, you've got Rayleigh, and you've got Gabon. Obviously you got Shanks and Boogie, but they're apprentices, right? That's 6 members. The rest of them are all kind of non-important, right? And even Gabon, like I'm pretty sure he was only put in the flashback, right? Or was he put in is he even manga canon? I haven't read the Odin flashback. I only watched it. So I don't even know if Gabon is manga canon. So it's like for someone as important as the Roger Pirates to not have him on to not have them really named and not to not have any notable characters outside of like it's like having the Munster trio in the Straw Hats and no one else, right? You just got the Munster trio and then everyone else is like to the side. All right? It's that sort of thing. Yeah. It's like that for the Straw Hats. I feel like a crew that is supposed to be the predecessor to, you know, the main crew of the Straw Hats should be more notable. So having more canon characters like Uda, who are like the child of people on the Red Hair Pirates, or sorry, on the Roger Pirates, is a nice bit of lore for that. And I do hope she's canon, because if she is canon, then this is less of a problem and more of just an interesting fact. And again, at the end of the day, it's just a story. There are other ways he could have got his, you know, belief in his dream there that are in the manga, but adding this in also would, I feel like is a bit weird if she doesn't show up in the manga at all. But you know, at the end of the day, it is how it is. And if you have seen Film Red, you's lucky bastards. I know people on Twitter who are posting about it every time they go, and I envy you entirely because I don't even know if we're gonna get it. Like as I've been saying before, Arlen gets like we got Dragon Ball Super. I just watched that movie there the other day, and I'll talk about that at some point. I have like one big thing to talk about. I'm not going to do a review on the movie. The only thing you have to know about the Dragon Ball Super superhero movie, in my opinion, is that it's an enjoyable movie, but I wouldn't call it a good movie. It's like I enjoyed watching it, but I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, that's a good movie. That's like a movie you'd only watch if you like Dragon Ball specifically for the fights. Like if you don't give a shit, like and Gohan and Piccolo, right? If you like Gohan and Piccolo's characters and like the fights, you know, watch Dragon Ball Super superhero, right? At the end of the day, that's what I have to say, to be honest. But with that being said, let me know what you guys think about Uta and her inclusion in the story. And if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more content from me. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.